So the financial inclusion campaign, or the awareness campaign that we are currently running, is really about us bringing the conversation on financial inclusion to every corner of Namibia. We want to do this in a relatable and practical way, where people can really understand how financial inclusion itself as a concept affects their daily lives, or what financial inclusion is really about, and what about financial inclusion is about or affects their daily lives. Yeah.
The bank speaks of empowering all Namibians. In what practical terms, or how will this initiative improve access to financial services and information for ordinary citizens?
Right. So financial inclusion as a concept is really about enhancing access, right? Now, from the policymakers' point of view, our role is concerned with creating policies and strategies that make sure to ensure that all Namibians are included and they have equitable access to financial services. And when we talk about financial services in the concept of financial inclusion, we are talking about timely, convenient, affordable financial services. How is this different from, and what does this mean? This means that we are looking at reducing the inequality gaps that currently exist in terms of consumers and individuals accessing credit, for example, right? If you look at an informal trader, they cannot walk into a bank or a financial institution and apply for a business loan or credit to be able to grow their business compared to another business, such as maybe an SME that is at a certain level. So that inequality in terms of access is what financial inclusion tries to address. So we address this through encouraging the development of innovative products that are tailored to the unique needs of the various groups. And from a regulation, from a policy point of view, what we do is we come up with regulations. You've seen in the past we came up with e-money regulations, right? So that the financial institutions can offer mobile financial services, wallets, and financial services through wallets. That was done so that even if a person doesn't have a physical bank account, they can still access a service via a wallet. We've also issued regulations in the past around agency banking, basic bank accounts, where you saw that now an ordinary domestic worker can walk into a bank and apply to open a bank account with minimum reduced requirements compared to somebody who works and they have a pay slip and they have all of these other and thresholds in terms of the minimum amount that you need to have to open a bank account. So all of these initiatives were put in place to ensure that communities, individuals have avenues where they can access.
Many people remain hesitant about formal banking due to fraud or lack of trust. How is the bank addressing issues around financial security and customer protection?
That's a very, very important question. So the concept of financial inclusion has three pillars, right? So there's the element of access, where you want to bring people into the formal financial system. And then there's the element of financial literacy and consumer protection. So the hesitancy around formal financial services, I understand that very well. But there's an element of an education and an awareness and a literacy point of view where consumers are not very literate when it comes to engaging with financial services, right? And this, I mean, if you look at the recent fraud cases or situations, it's usually a consumer that fell into a trap where they either clicked on a link or they provided sensitive personal information on the phone to, a stranger. They fell into a trap. That worries us very much because it speaks to a lack of awareness and a lack of literacy in terms of the responsibility of a consumer when it comes to engaging with financial services. Now, on the consumer protection side of things, the two regulators, for example, both have a complaints division or a section within their space where consumers can lodge complaints and lay their grievances in terms of experiences that they are engaging, that they are encountering, or malpractices that they are encountering with financial institutions. And then the two regulators then would hold the regulated entity accountable. But the regulated entities, for example, your non-banking institutions, your banks also have an avenue. They are required by law to have an avenue where consumers can raise their complaints should they have an issue with a particular service, and then only can that issue be escalated up to the Bank of Namibia or NAMFISA when they could not resolve that issue amicably between themselves with the consumer. They are not the strongest, especially now that we are looking at issues of cybersecurity and so forth. But at a policy level, you will see that the country has established a cyber security task force back in 2024, I believe in April. And this cyber security task force consists of a number of regulators and industry players, and they are really working behind the scene to understand what are the potential cyber security risks that could come up, and so that we are always ready and able to be and are able to respond should cyber related crimes and threats happen in our financial system. So that's just on a broader level of things.
What is your long-term vision for financial inclusion in Namibia, and what role should the Bank of Namibia continue to play?
No, that's a very important question. So in terms of the long-term vision, we have anchored our financial inclusion efforts in the recently launched financial sector strategy. Financial inclusion was already a pillar in the strategy that ran between 2011 to 2021, and we had achieved a number of outcomes there. You would see that our financial inclusion rate as a country currently stands at 78%. We've launched a number of initiatives. We have an SME financing strategy. We launched the pieces of regulation that I spoke to previously on agent banking, e-money regulations, and so forth. And we have a deposit insurance, for example, that provides safety nets to low-income or lower ticket size depositors. Those are a few things that we've put in place in the previous strategy. In this new strategy, with our focus on financial inclusion, our focus is really to ensure that we enhance digital financial services. We make sure that every Namibian, no matter where they find themselves in this country, will be able to access a financial service. And technology has made things easier by now in a lot of countries. You see that your mobile phone can be your bank account, right? You can have multiple platforms. You can have a lot of opportunities just via your phone. You can apply for credit, you can apply for a bank account, you can open a bank account, you can apply for insurance. These are innovative models that we've seen in other countries. And with what we are doing now with the instant payment, those are some of the initiatives that we are looking forward to seeing coming into our market. We've established a fintech regulatory framework. We have an innovation hub. We have a regulatory sandbox to make sure that we, invite fintechs and innovative business models that can help us translate financial inclusion and take financial inclusion to all the corners of Namibia. On the literacy side of things, we are working together with the Ministry of Finance, the Financial Literacy Initiative housed under the Ministry of Finance, and we are currently developing a digital financial literacy booklet, and we want in the coming months to launch a digital financial literacy program where we go into the communities and really educate the masses around what are the platforms, what are the safety measures that you can engage and participate in when you engage with digital financial services. And then in this same strategy, we are also making efforts to strengthen our consumer protection efforts as well. So it's an ecosystem approach. We are really keeping a close link and a close eye to all three pillars of financial inclusion as we have in the previous strategy. And to sum it up, we really want to leverage the transformative power of technology to enhance financial inclusion in Namibia.
What are some of the persistent challenges to financial inclusion in Namibia and that this campaign aims to address directly?
Yeah, we have information. In terms of information asymmetry and lack of awareness, people are not aware, consumers are not aware in terms of what's available, but then also in terms of, even if they are aware, sometimes the infrastructure, in terms of their geographical location where they live, it's not supportive or does not allow them to really benefit from the available mechanism. So that if I have to really sum up the challenges, I would say it's lack of awareness, low literacy level, and then a limited supportive infrastructure to allow the interventions and the off-taking of these platforms and initiatives. And this is something that we are working to correct with the efforts that we are working on, as I mentioned, on the instant payment and the work that we are doing on the digital public infrastructure as well, to ensure that in the coming years, consumers will be able to not be required to have a physical ID, for example. These are things that we are working with Home Affairs, so that you will be able to, make use of electronic IDs, electronic signatures, data sharing, for you to be able to share, or financial service providers to be able to access, granular data, alternative data about you that they can use to then approve your credits and your loans and make it easier for you to access finance, for example, just to mention a few examples here. This campaign is really what it says. We want to increase financial inclusion awareness, and we invite all our stakeholders, be it financial service providers, consumers, to engage with us and reach out and, share their fears, share their challenges, share their questions. We want to really work this journey together with all Namibians. And we rely, of course, on our media to really support us in disseminating this information and creating this awareness further, and taking this information to those who really need it the most.